195. Sima Guang and the writing of Ziji Tongjian. After Wang Unxi stepped down as chancellor, Emperor Shenzong continued to uphold his reforms for nearly 10 more years. However, in 1085, Shenzong fell ill and passed away. His 10-year-old son, Zhao Su, ascended the throne as Emperor Zhizong. Since Zhizong was still a child, his grandmother, Empress Dowager Gao, took control of the government as regent. She had always been opposed to Wang Unxi's reforms. As soon as she assumed power, she summoned Sima Guang, the leading critic of the new policies, to Bianjing, Kaifeng, and appointed him as chancellor. Sima Guang's early years. Sima Guang, a highly respected statesman of his time, was born in Xia County, Shanzhou, modern-day Xia County, Shaanxi. His intelligence and reputation began to emerge when he was still a child. At the age of 7, he was deeply dedicated to studying, reading tirelessly regardless of the scorching summer heat or the freezing winter cold. He was so absorbed in his books that he often forgot to eat or drink. Not only was he diligent, but he was also quick-witted. One day, while playing in a courtyard with his friends, a young child climbed onto the edge of a large water vat and accidentally fell in. The vat was deep, and the child was at risk of drowning. The other children panicked, crying and running to find adults for help. Sima Guang, however, remained calm. He picked up a large rock from the ground and hurled it at the vat with all his strength. The vat shattered with a loud crash, and the water poured out, saving the drowning child. This incident made the young Sima Guang famous. Artists in Kaifeng and Luoyang even illustrated the scene, and it became widely circulated. Political rivalry with Wang Unxi. During Emperor Shenzong's reign, Sima Guang served as a Hanlin academician. He and Wang Unxi were once good friends, but their ideological differences over governance eventually drove them apart. When Wang Unxi introduced his reform policies, Sima Guang opposed every single one. On one occasion, he petitioned Emperor Shenzong to abolish the Green Sprouts Law. As an old friend, he also wrote a letter directly to Wang Unxi, accusing him of overstepping his authority and interfering with other officials' duties, causing disorder in the government, excessively taxing the people in the name of economic reform, refusing to accept others' opinions, and dismissing opposition. Wang Unxi responded with a strongly worded letter refuting Sima Guang's accusations point by point. I am following the emperor's orders in reforming the laws. How can you say I am interfering with others' duties? I am working for the country. How can you say I am causing disorder? I am managing state finances. How can you say I am plundering wealth? I am correcting false arguments. How can you say I reject differing opinions? Upon reading this response, Sima Guang was furious. However, realizing that Wang Unxi had the emperor's backing, he knew he could do nothing. Frustrated, he resigned from government, left the capital, and settled in Luoyang, vowing never to engage in politics again. Writing Ziji Tongjian. Sima Guang was a passionate historian. He believed that rulers needed a deep understanding of history to govern wisely and learn from the successes and failures of past dynasties. However, historical records from antiquity to the 5 dynasties were vast and disorganized. He worried that emperors lacked the time to read them all. Thus, he began compiling a comprehensive historical chronicle, covering events from the Warring States period, 403 BCE, to the 5 dynasties, 959 CE. During Emperor Yingzong's reign, Sima Guang submitted a portion of his manuscript to the court. Yingzong, recognizing the book's value for political governance, approved and funded the project, establishing a dedicated office for its compilation. After Shenzong took the throne, Sima Guang presented another completed section. Though the emperor disagreed with Sima Guang's political views, he admired his dedication to historiography. To support Sima Guang's work, he donated 2,400 volumes from his private collection and personally named the book Ziji Tongjian, Comprehensive Mirror for Governance. The title reflected its purpose, to serve as a guide for rulers in managing state affairs. Years of dedicated writing. Following his resignation, Sima Guang devoted himself entirely to writing in Luoyang. It took him 19 years to complete Ziji Tongjian, which meticulously documented 1,362 years of history. To produce such a monumental work, Sima Guang and his assistants gathered and analyzed an immense number of sources. In addition to official histories, they consulted over 300 historical texts. The sheer volume of research material was so great that the original manuscript occupied 2 entire rooms. The book's rich sources, precise selection of events, rigorous verification, and engaging narrative style made it one of the most valuable historical works in Chinese history. It became an essential reference for later historians. For nearly 2 decades, Sima Guang poured all his energy into this work. He labored late into the night every day. By the time Ziji Tongjian was completed, he was frail, nearly blind, and had lost most of his teeth. His contributions to historiography earned him recognition as one of China's greatest historians. Return to politics and the abolition of reforms. Although Sima Guang spent over 10 years in seclusion, his reputation as a staunch opponent of reforms remained strong. Many conservative officials saw him as their leader, and even ordinary people referred to him as Sima Prime Minister, Sima Xianggong, despite his absence from government. When Empress Dowager Gao assumed power, she immediately recalled Sima Guang to the capital. By then, he was elderly and ill, but his determination to undo Wang Enxi's reforms remained unwavering. As soon as he took office as chancellor, his first priority was to abolish all of Wang Enxi's policies. Some officials cautioned him. The late Emperor Shenzong only recently passed away. Would it not be inappropriate to immediately reverse his policies? Sima Guang, angered, replied, "A good policy should not be changed. But Wang Enxi's reforms harmed the people, why should they be kept? Besides, Empress Dowager Gao is Shenzong's mother. If a mother revises her son's decisions, what harm is there?" Ignoring all opposition, Sima Guang abolished the new policies entirely in 1086. The final days of 2 rivals. When Wang Enxi heard that his reforms had been completely overturned, he was devastated. Shortly after, he fell into despair and passed away. Meanwhile, Sima Guang's health also deteriorated rapidly. Later that same year, September 1086, he too succumbed to illness and died. Legacy. Though Sima Guang opposed reforms, his historical work remained his greatest contribution. Ziji Tongjian set a high standard for historical writing and provided invaluable insights into China's political and military history. Despite his political conservatism, he is remembered today not as a statesman, but as one of China's most distinguished historians. 196. Su Dongpa's visit to Chibi. After Sima Guang took office as chancellor, he recalled many officials who had been exiled or demoted during Emperor Shenzong's reign. Among them were 2 of the most celebrated literary figures of the Song dynasty, Su Shi, Su Dongpa, and his younger brother, Su Zhe. The early years of Su Shi and Su Zhe. The Su brothers were born in Meizhou, Meishan, modern-day Meishan, Sichuan. When Su Shi was in his early 20s, his father, Su Sun, took him and Su Zhe to Bianjing, Kaifeng, to take the imperial examination. At the time, the chief examiner was Ouyang Xiu, a literary giant who was actively searching for talented writers. During the first round of grading, he came across an essay so brilliant that he slammed the table in excitement. Since the exam papers were anonymous, he had no way of knowing who had written it. He speculated that the author must be one of the well-known scholars in the capital. Given the style, he guessed it was likely his own student, Zhang Gong. Although Ouyang Xiu wanted to award the essay first place, he worried that since Zhang Gong was his disciple, such a decision might appear biased. To avoid controversy, he ranked it second instead. On the day the results were announced, Ouyang Xiu was shocked to discover that the brilliant essay had not been written by Zhang Gong, but by a young newcomer, Su Shi. After passing the examination, Su Shi followed tradition and visited Ouyang Xiu to pay his respects. Upon speaking with him, Ouyang Xiu found Su Shi to be confident, intelligent, and immensely talented. After Su Shi left, Ouyang Xiu turned to his colleague Mei Yaochen and remarked, "It is truly rare to find such outstanding talent. I should have placed him above all others. This remark later gave rise to the Chinese idiom, meaning to stand out above others. When news of Ouyang Xiu's praise spread, many scholars in the capital were unconvinced. How could a young man outshine the many renowned intellectuals in the city? However, when they read Su Shi's poetry and prose, they were forced to admit his genius. Su Shi's success also brought recognition to his younger brother, Su Zhe, who passed the imperial examination at 19 in the same year. Their father, Su Sun, was overjoyed. The literary legacy of the Su family. Although Su Sun was a skilled prose writer, he had not studied seriously in his youth. At 27, he saw his peers advancing in their careers while he remained behind. Determined to change, he dedicated himself to studying, but when he failed the imperial examination, he burned all his old writings and started from scratch. Years later, after witnessing his young sons succeed, Su Sun felt a mix of pride and regret. He sought guidance from Ouyang Xiu, whom he knew valued literary talent, and submitted over 20 of his essays for critique. Ouyang Xiu, impressed by Su Sun's refined and unique style, recommended him to Chancellor Han Qi, who was also deeply impressed. As a result, Su Sun was appointed as an official without needing to take another examination. From then on, the Su family became famous in the capital, and the father and sons were collectively known as the Three Sus. Political turmoil and exile. By the time Wang Enshi introduced his reforms, Su Sun had passed away. Su Zhe initially worked under Wang Enshi but later clashed with him and was demoted to a provincial position. Meanwhile, Su Shi voluntarily requested a transfer to local governance, serving as governor in Hangzhou, Huzhou, modern Wuxing, Zhujiang, and other regions. Everywhere he governed, Su Shi improved irrigation, reduced taxes, and promoted agricultural production, benefiting local communities. However, while in Huzhou, he criticized corrupt local officials in his poetry. His verses were misinterpreted by political rivals, who selectively extracted lines and accused him of slandering the court and committing treason. Su Shi was arrested and imprisoned in Bianjing for 100 days, enduring harsh interrogations. Some officials even sought to have him executed. Eventually, since his writings did not constitute a serious crime, Emperor Shenzong commuted his sentence, but he was exiled to Huangzhou, modern-day Huanggang, Hubei. Life in exile and the birth of Su Dongpa. In Huangzhou, Su Shi held only a nominal official title and lived in poverty, essentially leading a life of banishment. Struggling to make ends meet, he eventually acquired a small plot of land with the help of friends and began farming. He even built a modest house on an eastern hillside and adopted the name Dongpa Jushi, Eastern Slope Recluse. From then on, people affectionately referred to him as Su Dongpa. Su Dongpa's visit to Chibi. Despite his political downfall, Su Dongpa found solace in nature and literature. He often traveled, writing poetry and essays to express his emotions. One night, he learned of a historic site called Chibi, Red Cliff, on the banks of the Yangtze River. Under the bright moonlight, he and a few friends boarded a small boat and set sail toward Chibi. Upon arriving, he was deeply moved by the thought of the famous Battle of Red Cliff, where Cao Cao's massive fleet was burned by Zhou Yu during the Three Kingdoms era. Overwhelmed by the grandeur of history and the fleeting nature of life, he penned one of his most famous essays, Chibi Fu, the Red Cliff Rhapsody. A master of poetry, prose, and song lyrics. Su Dongpa excelled not only in poetry and prose but also in the ci, lyric poetry, genre. His bold and unrestrained style set him apart from his contemporaries. After his visit to Chibi, he composed the ci poem Yan Nu Jiao. Its famous opening lines read, "The great river flows east, sweeping away all the legendary heroes of time. To the west of the ancient fortress, they say, is the site of Zhou Yu's Red Cliff. Jagged rocks pierce the sky, waves crash upon the shore, rolling up 1,000 layers of white foam. The land is like a painting, so many heroic figures once stood here. A famous geographical mistake." Despite Su Dongpa's extensive knowledge, he made a notable geographical error. The actual site of the Battle of Red Cliff was upstream from Wuhan, but Huangzhou's Chibi was downstream. However, due to Su Dongpa's poetic association, Huangzhou's Chibi became famous, and later generations honored it as Dongpa Chibi in tribute to the great writer. Legacy. Su Dongpa's literary genius, humanistic spirit, and resilience in adversity made him one of the most beloved figures in Chinese history. His poetry, prose, and ci remain widely celebrated, and his works continue to inspire readers today. Though his exile was meant to silence him, it instead cemented his place in history, proving that true greatness cannot be suppressed.